It is time for another RoofTop Talks, ladies and gentlemen. I am Karen Vermaire Fox, the Executive Director of the North Texas Roofing Contractors Association, and today with me is our special guest, Kevin Aguilar. We've just spent a few minutes talking about the industry, how to make it better. He is passionate about making roofing better across this country. He's been here with us several times before. He comes in and does trainings with us, and we are so excited to have him. Rather than me read his bio to you, I'm going to ask my first question, which is, Kevin, tell us a little about yourself and who you are.
Well, Karen, thank you again for having me. I've been in this industry basically since, Hurricane Katrina. I got started in disaster recovery work. I'm from New Orleans originally, hence the Fleur-de-Lis on my logo for my company. I currently operate Aguilar Construction Services in the Denver metro area and throughout the Front Range. I am a licensed general contractor, so we're licensed to build homes, not just do roofs. But after I got into disaster recovery work and more specifically into the insurance-based restoration area, which dealt with more hail and wind and roofs, as far as the type of work that was being dealt with through the claim, I've taken that and gone even further by becoming a public adjuster. Now I believe I'm licensed in 17 states across the country. Texas is one of them, for those that don't know. I'm also a certified umpire and appraiser, and I've been doing contractor training in post-loss navigation since Superstorm Sandy, which was, I believe, October 29, 2012. And to date, through multiple platforms, whether it be NTRCA, distribution, manufacturing, and other relationships that I have in the industry, I believe I've trained over 13,000 contractors to date. Constantly pushing the envelope to get better for myself, but for my industry as well. And always willing to share what I learned with the industry. And that's kind of why we're here today, because there's some news coming down the pipeline right now that I believe every roofing and restoration contractor needs to be aware of. Laws are changing. They're changing behind the scenes. These are things that you might not know of, because if you're not a licensed public adjuster or somebody that is up to date on the legislative actions that are happening across the legislative bodies across the United States that deal with property and casualty insurance, you would never know. But as I get these bulletins day in and day out, I not necessarily haven't sounded the alarm, but actually been trying to let people know, hey, things are happening and they're happening fast. And I think our industry needs to be aware of it.
Awesome. We're so glad you're here with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Couple things I forgot, my disclaimer. So neither Kevin nor I are attorneys. We're not giving legal advice. You can't use anything we say as legal advice today. So throwing that in there. You still have to talk to an attorney if you need really good legal advice, right? Secondly, in NTRCA, for a very long time, we've had a code of ethics, and that code of ethics requires roofing contractors, every time our contractor members renew, they agree to follow that code of ethics, and they agree to follow the laws in Texas. The board of directors just voted to make that code of ethics just a little bit stronger about waiving deductibles. We had a rule that came in place during the 2019 legislative session that said homeowners were required to pay their deductibles. I know we're going to talk about some trends that you're seeing that are happening in the industry, but let's start there. Why is waiving a deductible, giving a sign allowance, giving advertising, any creative way that you can get around a homeowner not paying their part of the insurance claim a bad idea?
Great question, Karen. To be honest, I'm kind of shocked that we're having this conversation, because I was so proud of Texas when they passed the law, and I wanted to be known Texas was just catching up with the rest of the country. It's not like you were at the forefront.
We like to think we're always at the forefront. Come on, it's Texas.
Right? And I thought we had gotten past this. Now, let's just be fair. COVID put a lot of pressure on a lot of companies, okay? Outside of the exorbitant amount of pressure it put on us as human beings and Americans, it put a lot of pressure on people's businesses. And sometimes it's easy to revert back to old habits in life when you are under pressure or stressed, right? I think any, mental health expert will tell you that, right? I'm not one, but anyone will tell you that. So it's habit, right? So I think that's what we're dealing with right now. I don't believe that the industry is taking a step backwards. I believe that the industry locally here in Texas is just dealing with the ramifications of COVID and the loss of revenue. And they just want to kind of recoup those dollars as quickly as possible. The problem with breaking the law is you're breaking the law. And the law does not have any fortitude if we, as the citizens of this great country, do not abide by the laws, right? It's if we're not there to support the laws that are in place, why do they even matter to pass, right? And that's the rule of civilized society. And we need our contractors to understand not only is it breaking the law, but it allows the policyholder to gain an advantage over you because you're automatically willing to walk in their door and go against the laws of the land that are there to protect them and you in our industry. So I believe that if people just recognize that it's an easy way to fix a problem, but in the long term, it's going to derail all the hard work the NTRCA has done and every other organization for roofing contractors and restoration contractors in the Texas market to get to this point. We don't want to take 2 steps forward to take 10 steps backwards. And I think it's important for contractors to understand that. Again, my biggest issue with it is, why are you trying to make less money? I just don't understand that. I mean, I remember when we had our meeting, I can't remember what the venue was, but I remember when we had that meeting, I had some people in the room campaigning to figure out how to waive a deductible. And I was like, sir, with all due respect, why do you want to make less money? I just don't understand that. And that's what you're doing. You're making less money. And the same way we train this market to expect a free roof, you can retrain and re-educate the market to understand that they're no longer available, that there's laws in place that we all have to abide by. So to answer your question, Karen, I believe it's more bad habits that are arising because of the pressure that COVID put out. I don't want to believe that this industry and this market has devolved that quickly. I just refuse to believe that. I think there's more professionals here than not. But I think it's important to people to be responsible about not only to themselves, but to our industry. If you continue down this path, you're just going to erode all the progress that the NTRCA and this industry and this marketplace has made over the last 7 years.
Yeah, those are great thoughts. I mean, really great things to think about. I mean, I'm thinking about, NTRCA prides itself on having the best roofing contractors. We were talking about it a little bit beforehand, and our members, we make sure that all of our members live in North Texas, right? They're not storm chasers. They're here for the long haul. They're community activists. They give back to their community. You can find them after the storm. If you just need a gutter replaced, they're always going to be here. Not to mention, one of the things that we've talked about is this whole industry where now we don't have things, right? We're in short supply. You can only get so many shingles that are the same color, right? So now our consumers are even more of a problem, because if you have a roofing contractor that is willing to waive your deductible, you also have someone who isn't ever going to come back with materials or is going to go find seconds and put on product that is not good. You're going to get your felt, you're not going to get your gutters, you're going to get secondhand product, and it's not going to be the quality roof that homeowners should expect from professional roofing contractors.
Correct. And what it comes down to, Karen, is that loss in overall job revenue, which is the deductibles part of the job revenue. Whether, right now on average, you're at 1 or 2% in this market. So you're talking $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 deductibles based on the insured value of the home. That money's going to have to be made up somewhere. And the last thing that you want to do right now is start cutting corners. And if you have a contractor that's willing to admit that in order to gain your business, I'm willing to break a law, what else are they willing to do? Right. And look, I'm going to just say this right now. Not every customer out there is the customer of a professional, tried and true company who's going to abide by all the rules. Right. So for every company out there that's willing to waive a deductible, there's a policyholder / homeowner out there that deserves to work with that person. And I say that with full honesty. Let them find each other. Okay. We're never going to change that. There will always be a place for that. Right. Well, if C players want to play with C players, then let them play with each other. We want to concentrate on the A players, the A plus players that are in our industry that we know are professional, that are going to abide by the rules, that are going to collect the deductibles, and that they're going to put on quality products, and they're going to stand by their warranty, and they're going to take care of their people, and they're going to be good stewards of their community that they service. These companies do exist. They do exist in the NTRCA body as well, right? So we want to promote that, right? And eventually those other companies will go by the wayside. And, you know, Karen, you and I have been talking about this. I'm here right now in the DFW market. I just gave a training seminar with ABC Supply, and we are talking about what's coming down the pipe. I am privy to legislative information from the states that I'm a licensed public adjuster. For those that are in our industry right now that are waiving deductibles will be the last of your worry. We are about to hit a marketplace where insurance policies are going to be a stopgap measure, where replacement cost coverage for roofs will no longer exist. This is happening right now. These laws are being passed in states. They're on legislative floors being delegated and debated as we speak, and it's happening across the country. If you want to know about this, ask your insurance agent, ask your independent insurance agent, ask anybody that you know in the insurance industry that works for carriers. COVID and the loss of revenue from the pandemic has pushed their playbook into warp speed. And right now, carriers are taking advantage of this to try to push this narrative. People that have heard me speak before have always heard me say that auto policies, they are at 50% managed repair. So that means the insurance industry actually controls 50% of the industry through managed repair. It's always been a wish for them as a whole to put property in that same category. Property's been a lot harder to accomplish. Well, COVID now has accelerated that playbook that's always been in existence. Now they're just ready to call audibles to push it into the end zone as quickly as possible. I believe in 3 to 5 years, our industry as we know it right now will be completely different, where you will be more of a retail company and you will have to basically have your number, understand what your replacement cost to do a roof replacement is going to be, and that the insurance policy or the insurance proceeds are only going to offset that cost. You're going to have to be more of a retail / finance company where you're offering a financing option so they can help offset those costs. So I'm not saying that replacement cost coverage is going to go away completely. I believe that those policies will exist at a very higher premium, but the average policyholder is always going to pick the lower premium versus the higher one because they know what real money is right now versus what it can be if their house suffers a loss from a covered peril. So if that's what I see happening in the industry, and we know it's been happening slowly, but now it's more accelerated, having COVID and the pandemic be the catalyst for that acceleration, you need to prepare yourself right now. And you need to know that if you're not collecting deductibles as a business model, I'll give you a quick example, Karen. You have a $20,000 roof. You got a $4,000 deductible. You don't collect a deductible, you're collecting $16,000. Well, guess what? If they have a roof repayment material on a repayment schedule on the material, and now you cannot get the $6,000 in recoverable depreciation because they will only pay for 10, how do you do a $20,000 roof for $10,000? How do you stay in business operating on those kind of numbers? That's what's coming. It's already in the works. So for those people that are waiving deductibles right now, you can pretty much kiss your business goodbye in 3 to 5 years. If you're not understanding that you're not collecting real revenue from the job, this next step in where the policy language is going and policies are going as a whole for roof replacement, it's literally going to put you out of business overnight. And I think that's what roofing and restoration contractors really need to be worried about right now. How are you going to shift? How are you going to pivot? If the world that we know no longer exists in 3 to 5 years, what is the makeup of your company going to look like? I think that's the bigger question that needs to be answered right now.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You always have to be thinking forward, right? You can't just,
Absolutely.
it's kind of like I love that book, Who Moved My Cheese? I use it all the
Mhm.
time, right? And it's basically, this mouse is in a maze and the cheese gets moved and the mouse can't figure out
Mhm.
what to do. And
Exactly.
it goes out of business. It starves, right?
Exactly.
So let's talk about that a little bit without giving away why everyone should come to your
Mhm.
training, because you're awesome. Give me couple nuggets of what people should be looking towards for the future. Like, what if I could be transitioning my company right now to be
Mhm.
prepared for what's coming? What are those things I need to be doing?
I think that's a great question, Karen. Look, we in the Midwest and West, right? I'm in the Denver market, Rocky Mountain region, but we are so, accustomed to working through insurance claims. Now, part of my business is retail. I have another, basically book of business where I do take on retail projects, whether it be remodels or I do a lot of work for a Parks and Rec district. Those types of jobs I bid out on a retail basis, but I do a lot of insurance-based restoration as well. What I'm doing as a company is I'm tapping into my resources back east. In the East Coast and Southeast part of the country and other parts of the country, retail business is the lay of the land. They had to become more storm as storms became more prevalent in their market. But for the most part, they run a retail model. Tap into your manufacturing resources, tap into your distribution resources. If you're part of these groups, or if you're going to, SVG Win the Storm or some kind of other, storm related or insurance based related, conference or convention, you need to be talking to companies that are retail based and really either hiring them to consult you or having them share some of their playbook. These companies already have financing in place. These companies already know what their roof replacement square number is. And they sell on that number because they offer different financing options. So if you think about it this way, when we go buy a vehicle, if you ever broke down what you pay per square foot for your car, you would probably puke because it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
But the reason that you're able to do it is because you get a note that you can afford. Retail companies do it the same way. They have a higher number, but they give them an option through financing products that will allow them to pay out a note that they can afford on a monthly basis over a period of time or the term of the loan. You really you have to start tapping into companies like that right now so you can learn, because if the roof is not going to be fully replaced by the insurance policy anymore, how do you make up the revenue? How do you make up the value of the roof? So I think one of the first things contractors in our markets that are more accustomed to doing storm related work, one of the things that they can do right now is start asking people that they know in the industry that are more retail based than storm for help. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to pay for that help. All right. Yeah. There's companies out there that are willing to train your company to be this type of setup. What does it mean to be a retail company? You're going to have more overhead. You're not paying salesmen a percentage anymore, because if you're waiting to get paid when the claim gets paid out, it'll take forever to pay your sales guy. That means that you're going to have to be fiscally responsible. You're going to have to run a solvent company. You're going to have to know how to manage your books. You're going to have to know how to make money on 30% margins like the rest of the world. Most industries don't make 50 and 60 and 70% margins, right? We've been lucky. Let's be honest. We've been living high on the hog for a long time. Now the cream is going to rise to the top, Karen. The best companies are going to rise to the top, because when this shift happens, it's the people that know how to adapt that are going to survive, and everybody else that can't will go by the wayside.
There's like so many questions in my head. My brain exploded, right? Okay, as a homeowner, right? My biggest question is, am I going to get to have a nicer roof? I mean, like is that kind of like what you're talking about in a retail market? Like you go to California and they have like 30-year roofs, right? Mm-hmm. I go to the national roofing contractor meetings and they're selling 30-year roofs because mm-hmm. they don't have hail and tornadoes. Mm-hmm. But is that one of the things that homeowners are going to start to look at, as instead of being good, we're going to get to best, and looking at that I'm going to get to keep my roof longer and it's not just going to be black asphalt shingles?
I think that's a great question, Karen, because retail companies, they sell a lot of upgrades. They don't give anything away for the most part. So they're able to sell a good, better, best option based on the financing products that the policyholder slash homeowner is going to work with, right? So imagine a homeowner saying, wow, well, I can get this better, designer shingle, and it's only going to cost me an extra $15 a month. Now that's realized profit for you as a company, but for them, it's only $15 a month. That's, one less week of Starbucks. You know what I mean? I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. So
like heated leather seats in my car.
it's going to be better for companies once they understand the mindset that how it plays out for you. Again, it's a paradigm shift, but it's not a shift that is going to be impossible. You just have to be positioned to do it proactively versus reactively, right? There's another thing that we've been talking about for years with my colleagues of where retail companies would be like, well, this is our number. This is what we need. These are our financing products, right? You deal with your insurance company. Think about that. Think about a world where we no longer have to deal with the insurance company, going back and forth, arguing, doing all that stuff, right? We're still going to be part of the process because we're stakeholders in the claim, but at the same time, it's not going to be as involved. Now you have a policyholder slash homeowner with an option where, you know what, I'm going to finance this roof that I want for $25,000 over the next 5 years. And I'm going to get paid $18,000 once they remove my deductible. Well, now policyholders get to cash out their claim. They have a note for their exterior project or their exterior remodel that they can pay for, and then they can do whatever they want with the $18,000 that the insurance company gave them. So these are just options that you're offering your clients now,
Sure.
right? And that's really what it comes down to. In a sense, we as an industry on the stormer side or the, hail wind side, or just basically insurance side, we've always been very heavy-handed, where we force feed options to the clients instead of giving them options to choose from. Retail is a little different. Retail's always been good, better, best. Here are your options. Here are your financing products. Where do you fit, right? So in that instance, it's a little bit of a shift in mentality, but it makes it a little bit easier to deal with your clients. It's easier to run your business, even though it's more overhead because you have a company that's working nonstop year over year. You're able to manage a company from a retail sense a lot easier than from a storm sense. And trust me, the only reason I can say this, Karen, some of my best friends in the industry run retail companies on the East Coast, and they have been pivotal in teaching me how to prepare for this if it were ever to come. I never saw it happening this quickly, but then again, none of us ever expected COVID as well.
Yeah, right. That we would all be hanging out in our houses for a year. Oh my God. Yeah.
Right.
Do you also see more like maintenance programs also coming that way? I mean, so if I'm hearing you right, and I don't do this every day, right? I'm really great at running associations. I'm really good at that. I don't put on roofs, right? But do you see it also as a way, so my insurance will cover an immediate fix, right? But they're maybe not going to cover my whole roof replacement. So the ability to get your customers in there and have a CRM system and teach them what to do and how to do those kinds of things, and come in and, like my AC guy comes in and says, hey, we'll check your AC, Mrs. Fox, for you in the fall and the spring, and it's $350. And I'm like, okay, whatever, here you go, right? Do you see that as an also growing market, or am I way off base there?
No, Karen, I think you're spot on. You're talking about repairs. Yeah. In our world where we would abhor a repair or the thought of a repair, no, now you're going to see a lot of repairs. Think about it from a policyholder standpoint. Their insurance company, their insurance policy now is a stopgap measure, right? They're going to think twice before they start financing an exterior remodel. So my policy says that I have to mitigate any damage per my contractual obligation. Well, that mitigation might just be a repair. Not saying that you can't make margin or be profitable in that repair, but it might push these policyholders into we might need to look at this full roof replacement over a 7 to 10 year period versus year over year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's going to look, when insurance companies take certain paths, they cut off certain paths for us. Then we have to take another path to adapt, right? I believe that that's one of the paths that's going to be created. And I think you're spot on, Karen. You're going to see more repairs, and that repair work is going to be driven by the policyholder because their policy doesn't protect them the way it used to.
Sort of like my college graduate who has a Jeep that and I'm like, she's like, I might get a new car. I'm like, I drive that car until it costs so much to repair it that you need to get a new one. And I'd bank all that money, sweetheart. Don't go out and just buy yourself a brand new car because you got a job, right?
Right. I totally agree.
Yeah. And, we do that, right? We get a car, we pay it off, we drive it, we fix it. And then we go, oh, time for a new car. So I can see some in really good consumer speak instead of big roofing words. That's my analysis of.
Yeah. No, Karen, like, I think right now, and this is what I love that I'm privy to this information because of, the work that I do, but I believe that, the more I share with my industry, the better I can make it for myself because I'm still in this industry.
Sure.
And I would have never, I'm not here to say the sky's falling or, oh my God, everything's, I'm just letting people know the facts. This is what's happening. This is how it's happening. And this is what it's going to look like. And I've confirmed this with my agent who I buy insurance products from, who's a good friend of mine. And he's been telling me that insurance companies as a whole are going to adopt this. And when they adopt, it's like an 18-month process. You had Allstate, and I say this because they were the first ones to introduce a roof repayment schedule, which basically is a prorated recoverable depreciation. They introduced it in their Allstate house and home policy like 4 or 5 years ago, right? Allstate's always at the forefront of these types of products, but they were, actually kind of brave to come out alone and do it because other carriers were just going to say, you know what, we're going to sell against that, right? Well, guess what? COVID put all of them in the same boat at once. Now, if they're seeing, okay, well, Allstate has made some, savings, some significant savings with this house and home policy, maybe we should look at it. And when I was talking to my agent, who's a really strong independent agent in, the northern Denver kind of suburb area, he's got a ton of policies. He was telling me, Kevin, if you start seeing 4, 5, or 6 of the big players adopt within 18 months, it'll be industry-wide. Yeah. And that's when I was like, that's alarming, right? Because now we all have to deal with this. Now it's how do we position ourselves to give our clients an option to cross this new hurdle? Yeah. Right? And that's basically what it comes down to.
And I love the idea isn't just become a managed repair company. I think being a managed repair company is an option for some companies. It may be a really great thing for some companies, or maybe you have it as one of your buckets of the way that you do it, but it's not the only way. And I love the creative ideas that you've been talking about being the retail business and looking at, doing some of the repair sides of things. That's a creative way to still maintain control of your entrepreneurially entrepreneurial run business, right? Your own, your own business without going into that managed care path.
Right.
And sometimes everybody is like, the roof is falling. It's all managed care. And I'm like, no.
It's interesting because managed repair is not a bad idea from a concept. It's not. It's only bad when either side overreaches, the carrier side or the contractor side. There is a happy median in managed repair. It's just always been fought against by both sides. Somebody always overreaches. The carrier starts pushing back on pricing. The contractor starts charging too much. But there's a level of sustainability there that I believe has always existed, but has been fought against by both sides to, come together. I think right now, when you start looking at where carriers are going with, policy language and limiting replacement cost coverage, when COVID hit and they didn't see it coming, our material has just spiked. To think that in 3 weeks, OSB could hit $100 a sheet is absolutely crazy. when it was $9 a sheet before COVID. Okay. This new standard is going to be set. We don't know what material is going to do once it resets itself, but I know for a fact OSB will never be $9 a sheet ever again, right? So if carriers know that they got to pay what material costs are, because that's what material costs are, you need to pay attention on how they redirect all their other expenditures, right? So in Florida, two to 3 years ago, they started introducing right to repair policy clauses in policies, which basically say, we can pick your contractor, right? So these are things that have already been in the works. Now, when you assume the level of risk that means for a carrier, and all they do is mitigate risk, right? They underwrite risk and they try to find ways to mitigate it. They're accepting a lot of risk by picking a contractor, because now they have to vet these contractors that are going to be on the property for their policyholders. That just goes to show you how much they are willing to do to control the explosive cost of construction. Yeah. So these are the things, and I know we get caught up in our own little bubble and we just focus on what we want to do, but I've always been a big picture visionary chess person, right? So in order for me to be good right now, I need to know 5 steps, what that looks like, right? Right. So it's hard for a lot of people because we get caught up in our own bubble, like I just explained. But if you just take a step back and start maybe looking at it that way a little more, it'll help you position yourself, and it'll help you be proactive versus reactive. And then instead of it engulfing you when it's all around you and this new landscape is taking place, you're actually able to deal with it as it's changing, and you're positioning yourself. So you're able to move your chess pieces in a way where you're always playing offense and not playing defense. Yeah. That's what I want for our industry. I don't want our industry to be caught or be forced into a strictly defensive position, because that's when people compromise things.
So I was, Fox family drives Jeeps. We have a red, a white, a blue one, and a gray one. And as you can imagine, number one window that breaks in America is on a Jeep, right? So we go to the managed repair window treatment place a lot, right? It's $250. I drive the Jeep in. I don't get the Jeep, cool Jeep on my window, but I get a window, right? And we replace them a lot. I don't mind going to that guy because it's a window and I have to replace a lot. But I do take my car to the dealer, to my dealer who I buy from, because I think he does a better job. Correct. What was interesting that what you were saying is, and sometimes I have a choice and sometimes I don't, right? Sometimes the insurance company will say, well, if you take it to John's body shop, it's going to be X price. And I'm like, no, I'm taking it to the dealer, right? And I'll just I'll pay more. But what I didn't think about is, if John's has to come to my property, now I'm a consumer and I have to take John's roofing on my property. What if I don't like them? What if they're creepy? What if I don't want them there? And so staying ahead and playing offense is really important, especially if you're a professional, local roofing company. You want to go take care of a single woman like me because you are honest and truthful and just and fair. And that's an interesting thing to play offense on. I hadn't thought about that before. So
and for a long time, I've always told people, like, look, TPAs, third-party administrator or managed repair companies, it's not a bad concept, right? It works if it's fair, right? It works if, and I was just having this conversation with a good friend and colleague of mine of Owens Corning, Tracy Lapine, who's a national contractor sales leader. And I was like, Tracy, think about it this way. If carriers through managed repair right now are saying, maybe we need to look at paying more in managed repair to control this animal versus fighting it and not controlling it, that alone is telling you what their mindset is. Where they're like, we might have to increase cost or expenditure to control cost or expenditure. It's a crazy concept, but they're looking at it from $1 billion, right, view versus $1 million view, right? Yeah. So if this is the way that they're pivoting, and they know the frequency of events are rising, storms are increasing, weather events are increasing, They can't control that. They can't control what just happened with the pandemic and material. So they're looking at how they can control other things. And you have to see that this is where they might be going, right? So what I see, big picture, I see a lot of consolidation of companies where some of your bigger players that might have better relationship with carriers or already part of a TPA might swallow other companies that aren't positioned in that, world. But then you're going to just be like, potentially buying up market share, right? So I just kind of see all of this happening, because it already happened in auto, right? That's why you have Caliber Collision, CarStar, these massive companies that get fed all these leads because they're managed repair, but they only make money on volume. So I see that coming for our industry. They always wanted it to be there, but they couldn't really get it there heavy-handedly, but COVID and the pandemic just changed all of that. Now they're just like, sound the alarm. We lost, year over year, this is documented. I think State Farm lost $2 billion net dollars from 19 to 20. Wow. It's a big number, right? Yeah. So I think that's where we're at right now, and it's just going to continue to happen. So I'd like to see our industry, professionals position themselves. Again, I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm not saying it's happening tomorrow. I'm just saying it's happening.
Yeah. The cheese is moving. You need to know it's moving. You need to pay attention to that. Go follow it, right? You can't sit back and be like, yeah, it's going to be great. Okay. Anything that you're super passionate about? I know you're coming to do a training. We like to have you come in. So you'll be here to talk to everybody. But is there anything that you really want to say that I didn't ask you yet? I have 2 other questions, but they're softball questions and kind of fun. So.
Really, I think right now what I really want to share with the industry is it's time to diversify, right? I think the ice storm in the DFW market, if you never thought about, I do remodeling. We're wrapping up a 13-unit apartment complex. We were able to get $400,000 from American Family for my client, and then they ponied up another 1.2 million to completely remodel 13 units, right? So that was a real good project for us. I've been doing construction, whether it's been roofing, remodeling, or some kind of construction, additions, builds, whatever, for my entire career. If you are in this market and you've thought about delving into or diving into this world of interior remodeling, the winter storm is the perfect opportunity. The perfect opportunity. And for those that don't know, these are $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 losses. Okay, they're big ticket items. They're involved. They're going to take a lot of work. But if you ever thought about doing it and diversifying your company, now is the time to do it.
Sure.
That's what I really want. So many people in this market just want to do roofs and gutters, quick in and out burger, right? Like real fast money. I get it. Less stress, profit. I get it. But if the world is changing and you need to add more bolt-on businesses or divisions to create sustainability for your company in the future and the people that you service, not only your community, but the people that work with you, I think diversification is a must now, and now is better of a time than ever in this market. Sure. I really would like people to look at it.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's great. I love it. Okay, 2 things we don't know about you. It could be anything. 2 cool things that we don't know about you.
Don't know about me. I'm a golfer, so okay. I play golf, and I'm pretty good, right? So I'm a 3 handicap, 2 to 3 handicap. So I love golf. So if anybody ever wants to go play golf, I'll play golf with anybody, no matter what your skill level is. I just love to play. The other thing, it's kind of golf related, funny, but I just joined the First Tee of Denver as a volunteer and a fundraiser. Yeah. Golf has given me so much. I've been playing since I was 7, and it's been my best friend my whole life, to be honest with you, my confidant, like, my therapist. So now at 42, I want to be able to give back to the game of golf. So I just joined the First Tee. I went to my volunteer orientation the other day. I'm going to join the fundraising committee. So FYI, if I know you have charitable dollars out there to give, I will hit you up. So I think it's important that I just really believe this, Karen. I don't ever want to be a taker in life, right? I want to give back as much as I've taken out.
Yeah.
And I think that in any aspect of life, no matter what you do, whether it be work, whether it be, your church, whether it be your community, whether it be your children's school, whatever it be, anything, if we're all equal in what we take and give, I don't see how our society or our world can't be a better place that way. So it's a big step for me. And, I'm just trying to create some new routines in my life that just change it up a little bit,
I love
little
that.
perspective.
Yeah, I love that. I think we're going to have to invite you. Like, I'm going to have you come to our golf tournament. We just had it. Not this month, last minute. We just had it. So I'm going to be like, sell golf with Kevin Aguilar. How much could I'm going to raffle you off, and I'm going to do that. And then we're going to get somebody to proceed. I think that we'll work that out next year. Okay. So you kind of hit on it when you talked about giving back. What's the best piece of advice anybody ever gave you? And what piece of advice would you give to someone else?
Great question. Best piece of advice that I've ever had comes from my mom. My mom said this to me at a very young age, and I know for a fact it resonates in every moment of my life. She said very clearly, tell me who you with, and I'll tell you who you are.
Yep.
And if I have to give advice to someone, it's another great piece of advice that was very pivotal in my life. And I think it's worth sharing, that nobody owes you anything in this world.
Yeah.
If you want something in life, you got to go out there and get it. I share this with my 13-year-old daughter. I feel like I'm doing it on a daily basis right now because she knows everything, right?
Yeah.
But I do believe that, if you want something in this life, you got to go out there and get it. And you cannot be a sideline player and be mad with the result of the game. I mean, you got to put yourself in the game. You got to go out there and get it. You got to inject yourself in ways that make you feel uncomfortable. You got to change your status quo. You got to change up your routine. Change does not come without work. And I think it's easy for human beings to become lazy. And trust me, I've fallen into that trap. And right now, whether it's being in better shape or eating better or, doing better stuff, it's going to take work. So if you want it, it's out there. You just got to go get it and work for it.
Or making homeowners pay their deductible and not just falling back on the old thing. We just circle right back to the front of the conversation.
Right? Don't get mad when you don't get what you want, when you're already giving it away.
You got to go change. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I know we're going to play some cool stuff about how to get a hold of you across the screen at the end. So that'll be there. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I have to say I'm on my third rooftop talk. This is the most fun. I'm like, can I do one every week? Kelly's like, Karen, you cannot do that. So anyway, I'm so thankful you were here to join us. It was super fun to have you, and we'll see you back training our people and helping out with our people, and we appreciate you so much. So
no, Karen, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank the NTRCA enough. I'm so happy to see where this governing body is going, and I know that there's a lot of work to do still, but I just really hope that the people that support the NTRCA, the people that support our industry in this market and markets across the country, that they really just understand the responsibility that it takes. And look, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I've made mistakes on jobs. I've made mistakes with clients. Look, I've gone through it all, but I speak from a place of knowledge, and that's why I'm willing to share. I want to see our industry get better, but I want people to also understand that we're in a world that we have very little control over. So as this world starts to shift, we need to start shifting in a way where we can maintain the control that we have right now, right? Yeah. So you got to be smart. You have to be a visionary. You have to be proactive. It's all about offense, not defense. Be smart, because if you're smart now, right, you're going to be able to stay afloat in the future.
I love it. 5 seconds of everything you need to do in your roofing company right there. Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Karen.